And I do believe that when I see his face, I will wish I had given more away. And so I just don't want to miss a chance to love him more and to hate the flesh every chance I get, and to surrender one day at a time more and more and more. And I want to see people just learn how to wait on the Lord again.
Gap is the gap in between what is in our face, the reality, and what is promised, and we stand in between that gap. And in having the perspective of we're taking up that cross daily, we're actually becoming crucified with Christ. And a lot of times, Chelsea, I think we don't understand. We think God is like, sometimes we get caught up in thinking maybe God's out to just like physically continuously kill me. I think that that's a misunderstanding, because we're actually identifying with his sufferings. We're feeling what he feels. He's the one suffering. He's the one longing for these people groups who don't know him. I recently had someone send me a message, because there's often the question that's asked is, God, where are you? Where are you in abuse? Where are you in pain? Where are you in suffering? Where are you in these, in these horrible situations that people go through? And someone sent me a podcast, and it just very quickly in this podcast, they answered this question. And he said that he had an encounter with the Lord where the Lord showed him when he was being abused. He wasn't somewhere sitting off in a corner somewhere saying, I'm going to use this for my glory one day. It's not what Jesus was doing. Jesus was actually he said, I wasn't sitting off to the side. I was being abused for you. He was saying he saw the Lord step in and take the abuse. And that's what he did on the cross. Like when and it's the same whenever we give even a cup of cold water to the least of these, we've done it unto him. And it was like the flip side of that. It was understanding that the sufferings of Christ are the same. He takes our sufferings, and when we're suffering in his name, we're suffering for him. He's actually the one that's enduring the abuse so that we can intercede. He as an intercessor on the behalf of the one that is abusing. And the same thing, when we give a cup of cold water, we're giving it to him also, if that makes sense. And I know, like, I could go really deep into this, but I think it needs to be said that where you are and what you're doing is not just something that you're doing. It's not just a box that you're checking. You actually have begun to embody the intercessions of Christ. You're embodying the sufferings of Christ. You're embodying the message of Christ. And it's something that I think when we do ministry, we miss. I want us to hear that. When we just do ministry, we miss the embodiment. We miss the power of being his hands and feet and feeling what he feels. Because to do ministry, it says that, unfortunately, one of the most heartbreaking scriptures is that we could heal the sick, we could raise the dead, we could cast out demons in his name, and he would say, depart from me, and I never knew you. And so I can't, that scripture blows my mind. But I think the point is that we can do ministry, but we can completely miss being him in ministry, and that's painful, and that's why we can miss it, because the suffering side of it, feeling what he feels for a lost soul, feeling what he feels for an abandoned child, feeling what he feels for a people group that are constantly at odds with one another and destroying one another, is painful. We don't want to feel that. And so the opportunity, Chelsea, as a burning one, as a messenger who's literally embodied the compassion of the Lord, the pain of what he feels, the tears, of his intercessions, and the power of his gospel, stepping into those things and then going and being willing to lay yourself down. It doesn't make you, a hero, because we understand the human side of you, but it does make you unique in the fact that you're willing. Something has changed on the inside of you. What I call it the groan of the Spirit. Something shifted on the inside of you when the tears hit you, that said, I can't just be about me in my life.
Right.
There's something bigger for me. There's something more eternal for me. And in the book that
Mm-hmm.
I'm releasing in June, I talk about John Allen Cho, who was, he died as a martyr in India. And I talk about how he must have been struck by a groan from the Spirit, an unanswered prayer, a gap in between, a frustration somewhere that he didn't have language for, that would cause a 26-year-old to go die for a people group who would probably not even hear the gospel come from his mouth. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's something bigger. There's something more that's taking place. And that's why I wanted you to hear. Listen, I know this is a long podcast, but this is why I wanted Chelsea on the program, because there's something more that takes place within the heart of one who can say, like, I once was lost and now I'm found. I once was blind and now I see. It's a gripping of something internal that's bigger than you, that would
Mm-hmm.
cause you to go and take all your talents, and you're not burying them. You're taking the talents, you're taking the gifts, and you're sowing them into hard, rocky soil, because you believe somehow, some way, your tears can water that soil, and something can spring up from it. And in the midst of that, you endure crushing after crushing, and broken place after broken place, but you also endure probably a measure of joy that I've not experienced. A level of the nearness of the Lord, even when you're struggling, like, where are you, God, that I've not experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I
why,
want to say
yeah,
that so much of it's just upside down, like I didn't cry for like most of my life, because remember, I didn't want you to think I had any fear I wasn't going to feel. I think you're weak if you cry. Like, okay, get over it. All right, you're just feeling sorry for yourself. That's how I approach people who cry. And so the Lord in 2020 just began to make me cry. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, this is not what I signed up for. And so the Lord's just showing me like like what weakness is and what strength really is. And like like we think that it's supposed to look one way, but truly he uses the foolish things to confound the wise. And so even thinking about the Lord, didn't I prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name? Like that needs to terrify us a little bit, because I
yeah,
think I said when we spoke the other day, he's just more humble than we are. And he will
yes,
come and he'll set that person free because he wants them free. And he'll
yeah,
speak that word, not because you're so anointed, a prophet of the Lord, necessarily, because he wants the word spoken. And he'll
right,
come and he'll rest in a room with maybe a great worship team, but not because they're so awesome, but because of the hungry woman under the chair desperate for him to come. He's just more humble than we are, and he will come in spite of us, not because of us.
yeah,
And the second that we lose sight of the fact that it's him and his glory for his glory, uh, we just miss the whole point.
that's
And
right,
so much, like, Stephanie Gretzinger talks a lot about just, man, like it mattered how they carried the ark, and it mattered who carried it. And the thing that we give most of our attention to is what we worship. And so if that becomes entertainment or a platform or significance or whatever else, even for the sake of doing good, like
yeah,
we've lost the point.
yeah,
And so the Lord is I think calling those who are willing to come and to go low and to really just, Francis Chan was speaking about asking his wife, like, do we do anything in secret anymore? And his
wow,
wife said, yeah, we sin in secret.
wow,
And so just like the juxtaposition of, no, we post our good works online, look what I've done, but then we hide our secrets. What if we just flipped it? What if we just said, oh, guys, this is what I just struggled with, just fell here, pray for you, brother, like whatever. And then we hide the good deeds and we don't tell everybody what we're doing, which is what we're called to do in secret.
yeah,
And I think that once, truly, this is like one of my biggest messages to the church at large, the bride of Christ, is that once we believe and understand how powerful our our unity is as believers, right? There's so much division. We have so many things dividing us, and some things, sure, they need to be talked about. But I think the bigger picture is to lift our eyes above it, to look at Jesus, to say, I want to be